Okay. This is somewhat of a continuance of what I taught before, but I'll just run down something down. We have to understand one thing. What I do want now is try to understand the sins of Genesis, if I may say, the Xata'im of Sefer Berashit, specifically focusing on Chet Adam Rishon, Dor Shel Enosh, Dor Hamobul, and Dor Palaga. There's one thing we have to, before we even start this, we have to understand one thing, which is basically historically accurate. See, today we live in a cultural reality which, if there is or not a God or our morals are set by God or religion, is it's a question of conscience. You either want to or you don't. You're going to accept it or won't accept it. Most people sin. They don't really live in any acute God awareness, so you don't really have to run away from God. If anything, you have to invite him. Most times he's simply not invited. At the end of the famous Kotzker Vort, the Kotzker once asked a child, "Where's God?" He says, "Wherever they let him in." Yeah. All right. In the kitchen, you know what? There's chairs there. Bring them out. Right. You see them? See that? Yeah, that's good. You'll be comfortable. I was going to offer you a beer. Okay, that's a good scotch in there if you want. I do. So when we sin, I highly doubt that anybody's, people may be running away from social norms or from conformity with society that they don't like or do like. That is something else. I've encountered multitudes of people like that. But the average John, Dick, and Harry that sins is not because he's running away from a God, but at the best it means because he did not invite God into his mind. If God would have been to his mind, he may have not have sinned. I mean, the fact of the matter is we believe in God. We believe in Ashgacha Pratis. Think so. Hope so. It's one of the Yud Gimel Ikrim, so I would hope so. And yet somehow, so you actually believe Ayin Ra'ah, Oizn Shamas, V'chol Masecha B'Sefer Nichlavim. I mean, you do it, right? You daven Shmon Esrei. I mean, you talk to God, you say, Slach lanu ki chatanu, and God says, I know. Chalon ki b'shoniya, I know. B'chulu. And yet you actually think, do, say things in front of God that you wouldn't do in front of your mother. So there's a dichotomy here, okay? On one hand, you believe in God and believe in Ashgacha Pratis. It actually does not reflect itself to a large extent in what you do, or even what you think, or what you say. It's interesting. Your beliefs really don't reflect themselves in any of your normal expressions of self. Major issue, but the remedy obviously is to inject more and more God awareness, as the Rama writes at the end of Hilchos Yisur Biyah, that the Rama writes that the problem of Aroya, specifically, I'm talking about a major problem of this generation that we're in now. I mean, there's constant talk about the deterioration of morals and ethics, v'chulu, without going into that. I don't think this is the place we're going to talk about that. But it's the shvachikim of, you should really be wearing tzitzis, like a lot of tzitzis, you know what I mean? Tzitzis should do the, Rav Scheinberg wore like 60 pairs of tzitzis. I understand why. Demands tzitzis. I think I once told you, I have a friend that went off the derech, had a bad marriage, broke it up, and he passed away 2 years ago. And he was always wearing this poncho, and his name was Sholem, so he had this big S, like Superman diamond, on his poncho, and they used to go S. And but it's interesting. He always wore tzitzis. On his poncho, he had tzitzis. He would go to the pubs in Montreal and would get drunk with the French Canadians, but always wore tzitzis. So he looks at me once. He says, "Mendel, I want you to know, you're not going to believe this, but tzitzis works." Whatever the Gemara says that tzitzis does to protect you, it works. Okay? I won't say the name because you probably know who it was. He says, no, you should know, tzitzis works. Adkan. So I mean to say, yeah, would you believe it? So some people, that's very special. You know what I mean? How Levi tzitzis should work. But Lamaisa, Maybe that's why this generation, I see guys barely religious, but they're all wearing tzitzis out. I don't know, there's a big in to wear, people wear tzitzis out, or trailers. It's a shtickle remedy to a makkah. I don't know, into tzitzis. I grew up in another world. But the emphasis, the Rambam writes, all this comes from Leva Ponui Min HaChochma. So it steht in Rambam. Wise man. Bit cerebral, but very wise. He says all these problems come, we lev hapanui min hachochma. As simple as that. You want to solve it, fill your lave, which means not just your cerebral intelligence, but also your emotional intelligence, with chochma. Okay? This is the Rambam in the Hilchos Yisur Bia. The Rambam also writes in the end of Hilchos Mikvos, he says you want to come to purify yourself from things which are tamei. Says, well, you can dunk yourself in the mikveh here, right? But he says, litvoil b'mei hadas. Same thinking of the Rambam, same author. This is the end of Yisur Bia and Sefer Kedusha, and this is the end of Hilchos Mikvos and Sefer Torah. Yeah, litvoil b'mei hadas. It means immerse yourself. Don't just nash. Immerse yourself, man. Go for a deep sea swim. You know, you probably, with your oxygen tank. Stay there. Okay, litvoil b'mei hadas. The problem is that our sins come from a chisoron of das. A chisoron, we don't have to run away from das. We never invite it into our head. To have das, you pray a lot. Maybe atochen let him das. I have a small feeling that I say that bracha very fast. The Baruch Aleinu probably has more clients because it has to do with panusa. The atochen is a shvachem meisus. I don't think it works too well. Mistama that bakash isn't too much. It's a tzorach, but that's a metzias. It's like the bracha of Abasolim of a rabbi for Kriyas Shema. If you listen to the bracha, you're begging Kodesh Baruch Hu for avonos haTorah. You're begging, Hamarachim, Rachim Aleinu. B'seim b'libeinu, what? Lahavin, lahasku, Shema, lim, lam, lishos, gams, kol divrei, gams shas. Not just Talmud. Talmud is gittin. This is for the little boys. Kol, say the kol loudly. Kol divrei samat sechabiyah. Noch ba'ava eichet. V'hoyin b'sar secha v'chul. Al pidinsa b'chus haTorah. Taisa says in Brachas b'Shem HaYerushalmi that that's a Birchas HaTorah. If you learn Torah immediately following after Shemoneh Esrei, you don't make another Birchas HaTorah. That's Birchas HaTorah. No, so l'chayr, if a yeshiva bachur, there's one tefillah you should be saying b'kavana meruba, like really trying to wish to will to want to aspire to mean it. That would be the Birchas HaTorah before Kriyas Shema. No. They all know how to say Shema loud and clear, but the Rabbi before the Birchas Hadas, not too many koinim. It's interesting to notice. I notice. I look at people davening. That's a bracha like any other bracha, like you say Malshin Maltisik, where you say bracha, whatever. Archel doesn't say to cry, so you don't. You know what I mean? As I steht nicht in Article, and you know what I mean. And Beryl Wine did write an article, so you wouldn't do it. At the end of the day, that's we're not inviting das, but you have to understand this idea of living without God awareness is historically quite new. I would say the idea of not believing at all in a God is actually quite new. It's probably real atheism did not really hit Europe until the early 1800s. Like takin a kofer beikir, not to believe in God. I would say I know that until the Hellenistic period, there was no such thing as morals or ethics not coming from God, and everything was in the hands of gods. The point of time in which the gods stopped becoming godly and becoming the Brady Bunch, living as a misfunctional family, sinning, thieving, fornicating on the Olympus, was in Greece, in the Hellenistic period. Literally, where people stopped being subjugated to God, the gods were no more paragons of morals, ethics, truth, creators. They were just this dangerous, horrific, monstrous group of people that would better appease them, not they'll kill you. Okay, and they're not very moral if you know your Greek mythology. Not that they're not moral, they are highly immoral, to say the least. Like Zeus is the father and Venus is the daughter, and they're a couple. Okay? I have to teach you Avodah Zarah. What's the difference? It's bottle anyway. Yeah, this is like a ferlecha mishpacha, like all the Mamzer, all the Asher Yuchsin, all the Bavel is found on the Olympus, if you ever, you know what I mean? It's like a place. They kill, they cheat, they this, they that, they everything. So that's the gods of Greece. You understand? Because at that point of time, the gods were de-deified. They became the Brady Bunch. They were still had to be appeased. You had to worship them to appease them. You had to slaughter a bull or get showered by the blood. I don't know what were the different Avodah Zorahs were at the time, but it was no more a Yetzer Hara of running after Avodah Zorah. The Yetzer Hara running after Avodah Zorah, it says, the Gemara says in 3 places, was nishchat through the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. Shchita means through tefillah. Kadosh Baruch Hu was masalik the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zorah. That was exactly at that point of time. We can pinpoint. The one who does this pinpointing is the groin, Zagos, of the Bryce of Seder Oilam. He points out that the Shechita Yetzer Avodah Zorah is the exact point of time where there's no more nevuah, and now everything goes into minus. People, there's no more focusing on everything is from the gods. Okay, man now looks for his own direction. Man looks for his own meaning, but he has to appease these powers, but it's not the God that until then that you didn't know what it was to be without one. Meaning, purpose, direction of humanity was all within God, gods, or whatever it only be. In light of this, try to understand sinning. See, it's an experience that you can't even fathom. Our chatorim all come from a hetzach hadas of a kaluk. And the best we're going to get is maybe faith. And since faith does not have to be vivid and real, it's just like a halo above your head, you can be the typical, what I call SHO Jew, which is selected halachic observant. And you will decide whether this halacha is meaningful or relevant, and so on and so forth. And every little nincompoop that did his divinity degree in Yale is going to tell me whether Klein is relevant today or not. Yeah, I think he needs milk to drink because they're from a mother. You know what I mean? Yoinik, this is garnished. Kids are ever worth talking about. This is an idiot. You're not shaykh in the parsha. He doesn't understand what religion is, because Western religion, by far and large, specifically starting with Christianity, is basically a system which one would say religion is there to serve man, give man good feeling, direction, and purpose. And Christianity is the ultimate beautiful one, where God sacrifices his demigod son to give salvation to human beings, because human beings cannot save themselves from cardinal sin. I hope you understand something that I'm talking about. And God has to sacrifice, he has to bring down his demigod son. You know, the moms are over there, the guy that really wasn't there, whatever, so whatever, if he was, l'shitasam, okay, it was there in order to redeem man from the shackles of cardinal sin, which you can never redeem yourself from. And all you have to do is, he has this amazing grace, and all you have to do is acknowledge his existence, and you have grace, and you're in, and St. Pete opens the pearly gates, and you get in. You can beat Adolf Hitler a minute before you blow your brains out in the bunker in Berlin. You don't have to remorse, you don't have to say you're sorry, you just have to embrace the Trinity, or rather the Savior. And once you embrace the Savior, amazing grace, so on and so forth, and St. Pete opens up the pearly gates, and you in. And it's a pretty cool religion, you know what I mean? A machayis, there's no problem of echtav ashuv. You don't even need tshuva, you need emunah. It's really cool. Okay? It's a very interesting, it's a beautiful theory. I mean, it's the ultimate Western religion of God here to serve you. Most Westernized Jews think that Judaism is the same thing. That's why they feel, well, if this doesn't turn me on, Rabbi, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's not relevant to me. I don't feel this is that important. As I told you guys, your hargosha is Allah by nida. There's no din of hargosha in mitzvahs. Okay, you don't have to feel. By nida, there's a din she has to be margish zivus loverlach. She doesn't have hargosha, it's not needed to rise. Very nice. Was hat to do with mitzvahs? You have to feel something, you have to do. Okay? Feel your toes. Okay? Totally irrelevant. It's not relevant. Feelings facilitate behavior patterns. They make you feel good about something, you're going to do it easier. It's like the lubricant, which allows the pistons to move, you know what I mean? It makes it easier, it won't get flared up, you know what I mean? It's like, that's, I understand, okay? But it's not the goof of the uvda, okay? That's not what it is. The mitzvahs are Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Ritzoni is Baruch want them to be done, and they're to be done. Why? Because God knows these actions will bring the world where God wants it to be, not where you feel you want it to be. You are irrelevant. You're a pawn, excuse my expression, you're a pawn on God's chessboard, and he's playing the game. This is an interesting chessboard where he allows the instruments to move their own way. But as soon as they don't follow his game and his goal, he kicks them into position, you know. Every so often he reshuffles the cards. Okay, this is an interesting game. Notice the player is called God, allowing the characters on the board to move and do. But guys, you have to get there. If he goes the other way, you know, kicks them in, you know. That's what you call golus, that's what you call einish. You know, every so often he intervenes and makes sure that history goes where he wants it. Not, I'm looking at myself, where he wants it to go. It's wrong. It's where he wants it to go. He, it, whatever, he, she, if you're going to be politically correct, you have to say the he, she, God, I think. Okay? That's basically the name of the game, to understand. So the idea, is it relevant to me? Do I feel good about it? Totally irrelevant. All these questions that I get and I have to deal with constantly, the relevancy of halacha in the postmodern era. The relevancy of 1 and 1 equals 2. It's totally irrelevant whether it's relevant to you or not. It's an axiomatic truth. Okay? So it's totally irrelevant. The question of relevancy is irrelevant. Please take that into context. I'm trying to undo a lot of damage which goes through your cultural, your subcultural, or quasi-cultural, or pseudo-cultural pre-existence before you entered this academy. I'm not taking questions today. The question is my table. Each one has this custom-tailored answer. It says, what part of your nose am I going to move? You understand? So we never do this in public. Okay? But that I just want to put this on as a truth, which I believe is self-evident to the Homo sapien, which uses the gray matter that God placed between his ears. So actually, to sin today is simple. Adrabah, to not sin. Why not? You have to have a reason. Faith, whatever it is, you've succeeded not to sin, but basically not to be constricted by some idea of God is the simplest, easiest thing to do. We have a whole society that lives without any sense of God awareness, and morals depend on the weather. It wasn't that long. I still remember, would you believe it, when this lady put on the first miniskirt, they put her in jail. And I remember the first pantsuit that came into a restaurant in Chicago, she was thrown out. It was indecent. Okay, that's not that long ago. Whatever. It isn't that long ago, okay? I mean, you know, I'm trying to say how things have changed, okay? From the halacha that says if a zocher and a kever live together for 30 days, mustama, they're married and we're cycle on that chazaka, to say today, there ain't no way that chazaka exists anymore. Simply doesn't exist. The Gemara had a chazaka shliach ois l'shlichusay. I can say edus, it doesn't exist anymore. Okay? Edom choytev loy hoyed varmaylam anymore. Because fakir, he's choyte, because why not? You don't need a revach anymore. You're not running away from a guy. You're not running away from a religion. Choyte, everyone's choyte. Okay? Do you have beside Noah from speaking Lashon Hara? Lavdaf. You said that Mesiach Lefi Tuma, you do Averis. It's like Derech Agav, they fall out of your cuff. It's not a quick, the Chazok of Eidah, I hate to say it in today's contemporary reality, is probably not that relevant. The only thing, thank I don't have to pass Shilas, but by me, these things the chazakas have changed due to cultural realities in which we live in. I think it's a davar pashut. Chazaka, just because the Gemara says it was a chazaka, it's a dated piece of Gemara. Tav lemesav tav dunman lesav armaloi. In today's postmodern world of super feminism, nicht pashut, I would say it would depend society, it would depend literally, yeah, if you're a nice little shendel from Borough Park, the answer is yes. If you're Charna Leia from Crown Heights, yes, maybe. But if you're a girl from the Upper East Side, love Dafka, not pashut. You have to clear. I'm trying to say yes. We have to be. It's very interesting. I don't think one can say. I once told the Rav went ballistic. There's a whole drasha. Yeah, I think that it really is something which can be reassessed depending on society, depending on conditions. These are chazakas saying it's the anasadi that this is the way it is today. Hate to say it, it's not true in many circles. It's not true anymore. The woman would rather get married to a mitzvah and a mukashchin than to be alone. I don't know, maybe she should live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan the way I used to for a month a year, and you'll see that's totally not true. No, Iboy, she'd rather she'd rather live with a manuvel and mukashchin than to be alone. A lot of career women which are way age, and they're not going to marry Manuva Mukashchin, Mr. Perfect. Adrabah, their problem is they're looking for Mr. Perfect. They have to put him into a test tube to get a Mr. Perfect like that. But the Maisa, they're not being. What happened to Tavla Mesav Tav Dun Mesav? Rather, to do than to be alone. That's a choice. Well, they buy a dog and put him a Burberry sweater. That's what they do. I don't know. They find their ways. Whatever it is, this is it. So I'm trying to say something, that the mindset that we have today of sin is not at all doimer to the mindset of Zman Talmud, let alone of Zman Mikra. And that's what I want to get to, because we always think if we'd have acute God awareness, we wouldn't, there's not shaykh to sin. Well, what are you going to do with Adam Arishan? What was he, 5 hours old? He sinned. What do you do with his grandson? Enosh. Now look at Enosh. Enosh was, probably had these fireside chats with his Zaidi by the fireplace, sitting on his lap. Hey, Zaidi, who walked you down the aisle? God. And who walked Grandma down the aisle? God. And who tailored that beautiful leather suit in the closet? Lord the tailor. You understand? Yeah, and it's there. He saw the suit. Man, that's nice leathers. Yeah, they come from heaven, right? And that's Lord Taylor. Okay, it's there. Okay, Kostner Orvayal Bishem, right? Those Godim went all the way to Yaakov Avinu. I don't know if you know the Gemaras. Okay, yeah, it was around. Okay, Nimrod wore it. Okay, so this is probably said Lord Taylor on it. Inside in the the upper crust. With the designer part. Okay, you know what I mean? Okay, so God, and that's what I'm saying, God had his house slippers in Adam's house. Like, I can see his wedding album. So Enosh is looking at the wedding album with his grandparents. There's like, fuzzed out. Okay, it's like the fuzzed out part. That's God, okay? Say, did you talk to God? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was once hiding under a bush, and he said, hey, Adam, where are you? We played hide and seek, and all that. Yeah, we have these conversations. I tried to pin it on Bobby, but he didn't let me have it, you know what I mean? Right? Is that what you read in the Chumash? Okay. So whatever happened. There was dialogue. He was a Navi. Okay? Let's understand this. Not only he was a Navi, Uncle Cain, hey, Cain, tell this grandkid that you spoke to God and he put this mark on your forehead. No, Uncle, yeah, that's him, man. I'm still shaking wherever I go. The earth trembles with me, okay? I'm trying to say that God is a household reality. It's a vivid reality. You don't believe in God. To say you believe in God would be pathetic. You know he's alive. Not just emotionally, cerebrally. You experience his existence. Something which you can't even fathom. You can't even dream of such a reality. When I see a Shiviste Hashem Lenegdi Summit, it's not that you have to make it in front of you. He's there. It's like living with your mother-in-law. She's there. Okay? It's quite overwhelming. Okay? But that's the reality. You are there. Can you imagine living with the Rav? Every time you're afraid to open your mouth, maybe he'll tell me what my intelligent quotient looks like. And he had a habit of describing what he thought of certain people. I'm very nice. I only laugh afterwards. But right? But really, you're scared to open your mouth. As soon as you open your mouth, you put your foot into it. What are you going to do? Like, can you imagine living with a mother-in-law? There can't be dust anywhere. You'd be... It's like living, I was once in this house somewhere where the kids could never go into the living room only once a year. It was all a white living room. White with white carpet, white, everything white. It was like they were all, they needed therapy. I had some of them students, actually. Of course you become neurotic. It's like living like that, like living with God. You understand? So you have to understand, God awareness was there. So how could Enosh turn his back and say, I'm going to worship the sun and the moon and the stars? See, for me to live without God awareness is pashut. That's the reality I'm in. I just choose not to invite him. Not to invite him into my mind, because I can fill my mind with things which are anti-chachma. If I fill my mind with chachma, then he'll be in my mind. I know how to fill my mind with other things. Baseball scores, Narishkeit, whatever it only be. So God comes in every so often on Rosh Hashanah. The Yerushalmi says, I mentioned this in Shana Rabbah, on the pasuk, Oisi Yom Yom Yidroshin, people look for me twice a year. So it says, today we probably say people go for Yizkor, 3-4 times a year. Okay, the Yerushalmi said there are 2 times a year when people look for God, Rosh Hashanah and Shana Rabbah. Interesting. So Rosh Hashanah means the whole 10 days. That's a before Rishonim say it's already a Maram Wittenberg. Rosh Hashanah means the 10-day period of the beginning of the year. So the Seres Mei Tshuva, let's say, and Shana Rabbah. Oisi Yom Yom Yidrashi Yom T'kiyav Yom Arava. So for sure Yerushalmi. Okay, but that's about it. You understand? When do you live with? Does anybody become Shiviste Hashem Lenegdi Samid here? If you would have Shiviste Hashem Lenegdi Samid, that you wouldn't think, do, or say anything which you wouldn't do in front of your mother. Every time you did an Aveira, I'm guessing that Slach Lanu was never a bracha l'batala, and Ashivenu was never a bracha she'ena tzricha. I don't think, I have a small feeling that we have to say Tachlon every day. I think it's a davar pashut. We have to say Tachlon twice a day. Believe me, an edited vidui by Kriya Shema Lamita won't hurt anybody, because what you do in Seder Shlishi and your B'nai L'Chaver, God and the angels knows. So it's always better to do another vidui. But at the end of the day, because we don't think of him, how do you sin with all that? How do you kill somebody when you're a prophet, for goodness sakes? How does Cain, which talks to God, was actually born, not long beforehand? You have to understand. The Medrash says that 2 went on the bed and 4 came down. They had children like immediately. Okay, it wasn't 9 months of pregnancy. That's what the klala. 2 went on the bed, Adam and Eve, and out came 4. And a minute later, there were 4. Equals Cain and Hevel. You understand? All this was within Oisei Hayom. How long did it take? How can you kill? And what does it mean? He says to God, says, hey, where's your brother? You'll find him. Does this make sense to anybody? Like, how do you sin? What's the tzura of chait in that mindset? You're 100% sure that if you would be bombarded with God awareness, you wouldn't sin. I got news for you. The Jews were bombarded with the highest level of God awareness at Sinai. That was the highest level of prophecy that Judaism ever attained, because at least for Anochin L'Yelecha, they attained the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, which the Rambam writes in Perek Vav Perek Zay, is the highest level of prophecy that any human being ever attained. Okay, and we had that level of prophecy at Anochin L'Yelecha at Matan Torah. Okay, that's also Mufurshim Rishonim Sefer Ikrim. No, what happened 39 days later? We worship the holy cow. Right? We were like Indians. We started worshiping behemoths. Right? The Egel Azov. What was the holy cow? Literally, did you ever say holy cow? That's what that's the Egel Azov, the holy cow. Okay, that's what you worship. How'd you do that in 39 days? What is this? What drives man to do these things? It's not why we do things. If they really were at that level of reality, what they were doing was running away from something. There was something which was too intense, I would say, too stifling, and they were willing to, they fought not to think of it, and they introduced other ideas in their minds, not to be aware of a certain reality. It's it's a very normal psychological phenomenon of what you call going into denial, living in a fantasy, as long as you don't have to think about certain things. Because certain things, if you think about, diminish your sense of self, they endanger your comfort zone. You'd rather not hear it. Did you ever feel when someone told you something which you fuse terrible news? So some people will break dishes, slam the door, put a pillow above their heads, I don't know, put on the music, or something like that, because your fuses are about to bust. Because the information is too intense to have, and you want to run away from it. Don't say that to me. Did you ever have kids hear that say that? Oh, it was a great line. One guy I once annoyed him, says, "Drop dead." Says, "You really want to go to my funeral?" Says, "No, just stop it." That's why I understood what you want to do. You drop dead. It means you stop annoying me. So you can say it that way. But I understood. I reacted with a joke. "Oh, you want to go to my funeral?" It takes time. Will you say eulogy? You know what I mean? So that's how you disarm people. But the reality is that's what we do. What does that mean? Stop hurting me. Stop giving me. Stop being my comfort zone. Okay, that's an in-joke. Okay, stop destabilizing my comfort zone. That's what I'm talking about. This is what happened here. The sins of Berashit were not sins of lack of belief. All these stem from a stifling reality that they didn't want to feel a certain way, and for that you substitute ideas to allow you not to encounter them. This is the basic thesis. Now I have to prove it and do the whole thing, but this is the basic thesis. I want to add one more thing before we go further, and this is very, very important. We know that the Rambam writes in the Moira, the Ramban writes in 3 places in the Mikra and 1 place in Eov, that God attaches himself to man to the extent that man is aware of him. The more you live with God awareness, the more God is attached to you, and then you have more Hashgacha Pratis. People who live with no God awareness have minimal Hashgacha Pratis. Ramban says, Rishoim nitanim lemikreh. Nothing protects them. Whatever happens to them, could be Einish, could be Sachar, it could be the elements. Could be haphazard. It's a Ramban in Eov Perik Lamed Zayin. This is not the time to talk about. We'll teach that at length. I taught that last year. I'm not sure I'm going to do it this year. But yeah. Hashgacha Pratis depends on each person at what stage he is at any specific time. Is he Davek Ba'Hashem? Is he cerebrally thinking and aware of living with a God awareness? Ramban says even the Nevi'im had their ups and downs in this. The only person which was stable constantly was Moshe Rabbeinu. So Ramban, I repeat in Eov Perik Lamed Zayin. Frightening thing to know. He basically said that he's a long shtickle over there. He said this is nothing more than a chazor of Divrei HaRambam and Nevuchim. And the Rambam elaborates on this, but I want you to understand, I say this Ramban because many people feel, well, the Ramban was a mystic, and the Rambam was a rationalist, so maybe we don't accept the rationalist because we all love somehow mysticism. No, what do you do if the Ramban agrees, I would say, in 95% of things written in Moreh Nevuchim? He writes, constantly quotes them and agrees with them. And this is one of them. The whole Torah Ramban Ashgacha Pratis is based on Moreh Nevuchim, and he quotes it. He quotes it constantly. Okay, I want you to understand that. That's the reason I choose to teach Moreh Nevuchim. So you have to understand, the less you think about God, the less He's with you. He taka only comes where He's invited. That kid that answered the Kutzker was actually right. If you choose not to think about Him, He won't think about you. You will not get an infusion of God awareness unless you seek it. If you seek to think of other things and not about Him, He won't be there. Not just won't be in your mind, He will be less with you b'chlal. I want you to understand that. That's why the first Sefer in Shulchan Aruch is Shavisa Hashem L'Negvi Summit. That's why this whole halachas of how to get dressed in the morning, how to act in the bathroom. What are they for? They're there to be maisim who come to Machshavas. If you live with a certain modesty, you will internalize into yourself the idea, yes, I'm standing in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. You think He doesn't, modesty, he sees me whether I have something covering me or not. It's for you. You want to develop your own sense of modesty. If you develop your own sense of modesty, it enhances your sense of awareness that you're standing dalif miyatayim. So all these halachas are serving you. The Ramban also, this is the Rambam writes this also by many mitzvahs, by multiple mitzvahs. He says many mitzvahs the Rambam writes are there to make you a better person or to instill in you deyos nechaynais. That's the Ramban found in Rambam and Moreh Nevuchim, the third volume, chapter 31. Okay, it's also Ramban in Ken Tzipor, if you want to know. It's the Ramban also in Mrs. Ken Tzipor, we write the same thing. That basically a major part of the mitzvahs are categorized into that which will instill in you deyos nechaynais, midos nechaynais, or to uproot from you deyos kaisvais or midos gruos. That's basically, if you want to look at the mitzvahs, that's the basic plan. It's both Rambam and Ramban. Once again, the mystic and the rationalist both concur. Once again, the Ramban quotes the Moreh Nevuchim. Just each modifies a few little pieces, but basically this is the theory. So one has to understand, for example, these mitzvahs, okay. Obviously, if you live that way, it's a different thing. When you don't think about it, and you know what happens because of that? You have more ashgacha pratis. The more you live with the sense that you want to internalize the fact that you're standing in front of God, you start understanding it more, experiencing it more. It actually moves from just cerebral knowledge into emotional intelligence. It does. At the moment, it runs between faith or maybe cerebral knowledge, but it's only when it will come into emotional intelligence that will dictate what you will do and what you will feel and what you will say. Just having cerebral knowledge doesn't mean anything. It doesn't even demand a thing. I know a lot of things, so what? Okay, but once it becomes emotional intelligence, it becomes vivid and real to me. That's why I see it. Like my grandmother probably used to cry by Mechiras Yosef. Did you ever cry by Mechiras Yosef? No, I figured he was an idiot the first time. Why'd he go there this year again? You know what I mean? Every year he goes again but she felt that way. She, for her, Mechiras Yosef. Anybody here cried during a Sarah Rugia Malchus on Yom Kippur? It says in the Ari, you're supposed to cry. Kan tzorach livkos. Kol ha-meir d'mar shel adam kosher, Kadosh Baruch Hu is sofer manichem beis gnazov. He said once upon a time they used to cry on these things. There's a beautiful article by Dr. Chaim Soloveitchik, Rav's son, printed in Tradition, 40 years ago. It's on Mimetic Judaism, and Judaism which used to go b'Mesayir me'av leben, and he describes how the old people. I still remember this myself. The old shuls in Chicago, but he describes the old shuls in Boston, where the people were not knowledgeable, didn't even know how to read a book. You know what I mean? They couldn't even read a kid's Shulchan Aruch, but they came from the old Europe. You know what I mean? And on Rosh Hashanah they cried, and in Tkiyas they were shaking, and Elul was something. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I still remember these people. They used to have snuff. Their mustaches were yellow from the tobacco. You know what I mean? But what you're talking about, your Shana, Yom Kippur, they were fully regish. They had no book knowledge, not at all. Wait, today we are flooded with book knowledge. Everybody knows something. Just you don't even know Hebrew anymore, right? Now, this in English. You have to know English, or whatever it only be. Yeah, I'm not talking about the quality, but there's knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge. No emotional awareness. No one's crying at Rosh Hashanah. No one's crying on Tisha B'Av. No one feels Elul. You know, I still remember hearing a shmuz from Pastor Sarna. They described that Rasul Salanta went on the bima in Covenant and Rosh Chodesh Elul and just said, Elul, and he fainted. Okay, maybe his blood pressure went down. You know, we can be cynical about it. No, but he fainted by thinking about Elul. Okay, I don't think it's a good for an article story, but so what? So it's inspiring. Kumbaya. That's all you're going to get. In other words, Lamai said that's not part of your experience. That's what Chaim discusses over there, Chaim Soloveitchik, how we've amassed enormous book knowledge, but we've lost the emotional intelligence, which somehow comes from simplicity of tradition. Forget, today we all question tradition. My grandfather probably didn't know what he was talking about because he didn't know this Gemara. Listen to your grandfather. Do yourself a favor. Okay? That mimetic tradition of Av Leben carries a lot of weight. A lot of weight. That's what preserved Judaism for generations. Okay? They didn't have all these great books. There were a lot of people which were illiterate. Get this straight, but really straight. You remember there were periods that there was no place, multitudes of Jews couldn't read Aleph Beis. During the Cossack revolt, that whole period over there in the early 1700s, and what are you talking about? People were barely alive. Who could afford to have a tutor for his child? I mean, what are we talking about? You all hear these great Gedolim stories about these small centers of greatness. Great. There was greatness and there was pure literacy. Yeah. That's exactly was the vacuum where the Hasidic movement came in and developed what it developed. This is a very important point to know. So so what was it? It was a sense of it's real. There was something real about it. It wasn't just a halo above their heads. It was a vivid reality. That's called acute God awareness. That's where it moved to speak from their head through their throat to their heart. Okay, that's what you're talking about. There were generations like that. Today we suffer from that. We suffer from that. That's why there may be we're doing and trying to feel good about it. But what we do is we hit our gut without letting our brain go to our gut. Most people who jump and dance because they don't think. The chachma is that the knowledge and the thoughts that you have must come down to your heart. The Rambam describes that hispilus and ava v'yira and dimyonis of God, which are not accurate, is narishkeit. The Rambam writes it in Furish. You have to have an idea which is concrete and real and theologically sound, and that should, make you move, okay? But creating some Alice in Wonderland reality out there, and because of that, saying, I feel close to the Lord. Why? With what? With a bottle of whiskey or some nice Kalabachian song, singing that is not close to God. That's close to your navel, okay? And I do not mean the Navy. This is undoes God. Push your Rambam in the Meirah that writes this, that you have to, what are you believing in? What are you knowing about? And that should be Garim Simcha and Ava and all the good regushes, but it can't be Dimyonis. So what made them run away? What made them run away? So here I just want to start the piece of the moment, and then he's going to start explaining what these different things are. So in front of you have a book called Beis Yaakov, that's Rabbi Yaakov Ishbitzer, the son of the famous Mea Shiloach, which was a student of Simcha Bunim of Shische and the Chavrusa of the Holy Kotzker. He separated from him. They were not doing Hasidic history at the moment. This is a very, very cerebral group, very, very, very profound. This is not a book for Vorts, again. This is a book you have to finish from beginning to end. There's like one book totally on the Torah. There's another 3 books of Beraishit, Shmos, and Vayikra. This is the Beis Yaakov. He's the great interpreter of his father, which was the Mea Shiloach. Mea Shiloach is Mordechai Yosef Leiner of Ishbitzer. He didn't write his book. His book are from notes written by his 16-year-old grandchild. It's so funny when people write doctorates on the Mea Shiloach, with the sheet of the Mea Shiloach, there's nothing more than notes of his 16-year-old grandchild, which was an Ilui Otzum, of Gershon Heinrich Leiner, the Radziner. It was also a Goyen Olam. He died at the age of 52. He wrote numerous books in Halacha, in Agadah, Tshuvas, Bavli, Yerushalmi, and also in Kabbalah and Chassidus. He also spoke 8 languages. He also was a master in zoology and botanics. If you want to know, he packed a gun. He was the one that found the tchelis. I mean, he was an Ili Shein Kedugmasai. There's a book that he wrote when he was in jail for 3 weeks, just on Savos or Blazer al Gadol. The amount of Marmakremish there, today you'd need Google and its friends to find it. He wrote it without books, in jail. So, not in jail, so he wrote a sefer. I wonder what you would do without it. Today you have to walk around with a big sefer because if you become belechtacha baderech, you don't have anything in your head. With Baruch Hashem, he had something in his head. So this is the grandchild. So 16-year-old in those days, they're in Ushas. But this 16-year-old kid, at the end of the day, I just want to put this on the table. Why? Because you're probably, if you open up and you go on Google, you look at Me'ah Shilech, you're going to find in the academia, it's very popular today in Jewish thought to analyze the Me'ah Shilech. The theology of the Me'ah Shilech, determinism in the Ishbitzer thought. This is a typical, a lot of that there. Yeah, the truth of the matter is one of the major parts that he deals with is man's relationship with God and Yediyah and Bechira. He's a serious thinker, and he has a lot what to say. This is not the piece that's going to talk about those things. But the author of the Me'ah Shilech was so misunderstood that there were people that they had to print his book in Vienna. They couldn't even print it in Poland. Would you believe it? It's unbelievable. If you look at the first printing of it, it was in Vienna. Now, why would a Polish rabbi get his book printed? He was already not alive. Why would his grandson print the book in Vienna? Believe me, no other books at the time were printed in Vienna. They were printed in Pietrkov or whatever it only be. It was very simple. There was a lot of violence, as typical in the Hasidic world at the time. It wasn't as simple as that. But there were Goinim G'daylim, and the book is a phenomenon. Today it's become very, very popular. The world of academia, it's very much out there. So let's look at this piece. Pashas Nayach Maimem Nun Beis. Left column, bottom paragraph. Vahi kol ha'aretz safar echad b'dvarim achadim. What's that talking about? The Torah Palaga. Now, before I'm going to read the Chumash there first. I'm going to read it to you, and let's just look at the Chumash and try to figure out what's there when we read it. So we're talking about the end of Parshas Nayach. The end of Parshas Nayach says, here's a story. It says, it's very cryptic. Very, very cryptic. There's so many amounts of interpretations on this, but let's just read Chumash. Vahi kol ha'aretz safa echat udvarim achadim. It's a nice way of saying everyone spoke the same language and had the same cultural baggage. Mean to say, I'll explain myself. People sharing the same language don't always understand each other, because my cultural baggage isn't yours and yours isn't his, and therefore words mean different things and touch different chords to each or different. That's why just sharing the same language may help you communicate, but doesn't it all think we don't think the same thing. I suffer from this constantly. I mean, I say something, and then someone asks me to send an email about pshat, and they didn't have what I was saying. I thought it was clear, okay? But that's normal to me, okay? I understand that. It's pashut, because for me, this word means X. How would you know? You didn't drink the beers with me. You didn't, I don't know what. You didn't listen to my music. You didn't with my chavrusa. What do you want from me? So now I have to figure out how I'm going to find where I always try to find, okay, where is the misunderstanding? And that's where I'm going to answer it. You understand? That's how it works. Okay, I want to, because we know the real Talmud is not the person who knows how to parrot or say over what the man said. Big deal. It's garnished. It's easy. You know what it is? To get into the man's mindset and figure out why he said it. More so, to figure out why he said that, not something else. The silence is, that's when you really know you're on the right track. Okay, you have to. What did he mean? That's why the Gemara says you only understand your Rebbe only after 40 years. You only understand your Rebbe after 40. I don't know. Even though das Rabbi achar boim shana. Yeah, it takes time. Because in the beginning, all you have is the externalities, then you finally attach yourself to the mindset, to the thinking, to the value system. What made the man tick? Now you chap, now... then you can start talking with each other in Rosh Tevis. I mean, then you have to explain too much. I know what you mean. You have to say it. It's like being married, okay? Don't you know that the couple which really knows each other well doesn't really have to talk to each other? Hi, yeah, right, wrong, goodbye. You know what I mean? If you talk too much, that means you're still an adolescent little kid. You figure out what to do with yourself. Okay? That's feel. Talking too much is a kochach, you don't know each other. Okay? Thank God there's a mystery of existence, so you always have to talk. But you know, what did you mean? Oh, give me a break. By now you don't know what I mean. You're in the wrong planet, okay? That means you're connected to my words, not to me. So you have to understand that here the Chochmah is, they were totally uniform. They had one agenda. And they had one agenda, and they had one language. What was their agenda? So basically it says, Rashi, Bo beitzai chat v'amru, basically said, we're going to go to heaven and we're going to do war with them. Now, obviously, this is a metaphor of some religious revolt, because no one's going up to heaven. You must understand, this is pre-iron period. So what you're looking at is, and there was no bedrock there, because this was a clay valley, Shinar. They didn't even find rocks like in Jerusalem. They had to kilt and they had to make clay bricks, right? How big can the building stand without steel? How many floors? Clay brick store, that's all. How many? 4 stories? 5 stories? 6! Big one. So they built a building which is smaller than my apartment house that I live in. And did they build on the mountaintop? No, they built in the valley. If they wanted to go up to heaven, brother dear, first of all, put it on the Everest. And then dream that you build somewhere you get to the heavens. Maybe they were that primitive. We're going to go up to the heaven, we're going to shoot arrows. Obviously you heard that in kindergarten. It's shtiyat. It's a metaphor for a religious revolt. So they were basically had one agenda. We are going to run away from God, war on God, whatever it only be. And therefore, as he says in another lashon, they were all talking about God. We have to fight with him. With Dvarim Achadim Amru, Achas is another line. Achas, the Elef, Vitarnu, 1,656 years. Harakia mitmotate. Sky comes down. I've been around for a while. It hasn't come down yet, but somehow they thought the 1,556 sounds like an accurate number. Okay, it's going to come down. Kishem she'asib mehamabel, because the mabel happened after 1,556 years of existence, and then so it means when it comes down, that means what's going to happen. They thought the sky came down. Because obviously there's Mayim El Yoinim. You think this is an interesting visual reality. Obviously above the clouds there's a whole tank full of water, and God just opened up the tanks and let it come down. This is how they understood things. If you don't think this is a metaphor, I hope you don't have to explain this, okay? And then it says they're going to do it again. Bova naselo smichot. So we'll make sure we'll put up pillars to the heaven, so therefore he won't be able to open them up and pour the tank down. Now, were they really stupid? 4 stories in a valley is going to do what? Going to make smichot lashamayim? Well, so, Rashi is medrash. This is Chazal. So Chazal talk in a certain way. It's obviously metaphoric. It's allegory. One has to explain what this was. We're clearly talking, they were looking for, let's translate it in simple things. They were looking for stability of existence. Did not want God's intervention into their lives. Translate. We're going to make sure the heavens don't open up. Okay? By creating this 4-story, what at the time was what we call a skyscraper. They call it skyscraper. Skyscraper? Are you funny? Yeah, but we call it a skyscraper, don't we? The Empire State Building, big deal. It's a skyscraper with sky. Is God in the stratosphere? Where's he at? Is he like near Venus? Like, where's he at? You know, it's a joke. Do you really think they were that stupid? Oh, we only became smarter later and by his sheni? What happened until then? Remember, we're talking about, it wasn't that long after the Mabul. Noach spoke to God, Zanavi, Shem is Zanavi, Zemer Michael. You know, Avram Avinu is living. This is Avram Avinu's period. Okay? What are we doing here? Shem is around, if you recall. You know what I mean? This is God has his house slippers in man's house. What does this mean here? That they were looking for stability, but trying to make sure there's no intervention of God in their lives. And they felt by disinviting God into their life, they would attain stability of stability of comfort zone, stability of life, stability of sense of self. Let's try to understand what this is. After that, I'll show you some Furshim Medrash, but I just want to read Chumash. So it seems to be, so where do they go? Why do I say this? Because it's unbelievable. Because the Asad Lavai, the Navi says this is going to be the similar thing, but the opposite. Let's say Yidabu Kulam B'Sofa Achaz Brura Likrei Kulam B'Shem Hashem. We will then all share one language, but the agenda will be Likrei B'Shem Hashem. The exact opposite of Dor Palaga. They were one language, and Kulam to disinvite God. Okay? Make sure the heavens don't come down on us anymore. Fighting God, okay? Same idea. Religious rebellion, but not by not believing in God, by forcing God's hand. Do you notice what it says here? We're going to fight him to make sure he doesn't intervene. It's a sin coming from believing that they can manipulate, control God's intervention into man's world. That's what's interesting here. And actually, they were right. Because it is true that man controls God's intervention in the world. The less you think of him, the more he decides not to come. The more you choose to think of something else and not him, the less he will be intervening in your life. The person which is davik ba'akadosh baruch hu, everything is ba'ashgacha pratis. A person which is not davik ba'akadosh baruch hu, rishoim ditonim lemikra, it's a lashon haRamban. God does not protect you. You have an accident because you were a lousy driver. Or it could be einish. I'm not saying not. But let's say if it wasn't, it doesn't have to be einish. It could be because you're a stupid driver. You got stuck in a traffic jam. Sorry, you should have listened to Winds 1010 in the morning to find, or open your Waze, excuse me, you need that, to find out. Don't go on the belt at 8 o'clock in the morning. What are you going to do? You get stuck. Who goes? The GW. Are you kidding? Either you go 5:30, if not, you go 10. In the middle over there, you're stuck there an hour in traffic. Right? I mean, it's a reality, so you have to have what you're doing. If you're an idiot, you're an idiot, so be an idiot. God lets idiots live, so you want to be an idiot, be an idiot. He's not going to intervene to help you. So don't always think that everything terrible happened to you is because, I once told somebody, listen, a guy eats a high cholesterol diet. Okay? And he's Papa Barabba's cousin. Okay? You know what I mean? Okay, and he dies of a heart attack. Did God kill him or did he kill himself? Eating that lifestyle, the equivalent of taking a gun, and your name's Richard Corey, and bing, and you said goodbye to the world. The guy smokes cigarettes. Okay, puts down 2 packs a day. His odds of not having a major lung ailment is not that hot anymore. We know that today. Since we know that, there's no more Shemer Psoim Hashem on it. There's no protection. So when you do get emphysema, I don't want to say anything terrible, let's say you get emphysema or asthma, etc., don't blame God. Blame yourself. You're an idiot. Oh, if you'd be Davik Hashem, God would make sure you wouldn't do it. Oh, he'd finagle you, make sure somehow that you'd get broke, you couldn't buy cigarettes. I don't know, he'd give you a jaw ailment and you wouldn't have to smoking cigarettes. He would protect you if you'd be Davik Hashem. You don't warrant that protection. Gemara says before us that there's certain things which Mo'ira din. A guy walks under a kir natui, a wall which is about to fall. So what does that mean? Look at the Rishonim. Guy walks in a place with a makam sakana. So normally it should fall. So there's a little mishpat up in heaven. Is he worthy of protection? if he's Davik B'Hashem, worthy of protection, or he has Sachar, one of the two, then they'll make sure that either he runs faster or the laws of gravity will hold a bit, and as soon as he leaves, it will fall down. But that's only if you're either Baal Sachar, which most of us probably have more oynish than Sachar in our bank account, and or you're a Davik B'Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore you're not Nitin L'Mikra. You should understand that. This is the Repashit. So you understand, they were not wrong. We decide to disengage from him, he will disengage from us. And they felt that disengaging from God will do them well. That's called forcing God's hand. Holding up the Migdal, so to speak, that the Shemaim should not open. What does this Migdal mean? Okay, think of it yourself. Here, what do they say? Where did they go? Now, some Mikedem, they traveled from the east, towards the east. The Yimtzu Bika, they found a valley, Be'eretz Shinar, which is in Mesopotamia, basically where Iraq is, Babylon. Okay? Vayeshvu Sham, and they lived there. Rashi says, what does Shinar mean? Shamni Naru Meitemi Babul. All the carcasses of the dead people, the skeletons of the Mabul, they all were in the valley of Shinar. Now, this is already something, I make a point to this. Let's understand. Are we talking about all of humanity was there? Well, could all of humanity possibly have fit in one valley of Shinar? There's finite space there. So either it was that very small number of humanity, or it wasn't all of humanity, one of the two. B, if all of humanity died in the Mabul and there were so many people, could their bodies have fit in Shinar? Well, either they were so decimated and crushed that maybe they could, possibility A, or maybe the Mabul wasn't everywhere, possibility B. I'm pointing out realities which have to be thought about, because there is something which is interesting. There's finite space. How much can you put there? So they all went. Who's the all? Does the all mean, was like a few million people? How many people are we talking about? Okay, they all went to the land of Shinar, to a valley in Shinar. Now, if there's a valley there, valleys are very finite. It can't contain everybody. And they wanted all to live there, not to be spread out. They wanted to create what we call an urban sprawl, a metropolis, and not to be villagers. Okay, that's what they wanted to do. So it says what to do. They came to Eretz Shinar, but Yeshua, and they resided there at the moment, lived there. We'll make a kilt and we will make bricks. Thus the brick became like a stone. And the clay was their cement. So now they had clay for cement and they had bricks. They said, let's get together and we'll create a metropolis. They wanted to walk away from agrarian society into an urban society, if you understand what this was. They want to create a metropolis. Now, what's the idea of the metropolis? Now, does anybody live in New England? When I tell you that there's a tower, now where was this Shinar place? Let's understand. It's not on a mountain, this Migdal. So it means to say it's a house, it's a building which is tall compared to the huts that they used to have. So 4 or 5 stories is a skyscraper. Which building in the typical New England village has a tower on it? It's called a church steeple. Bell tower, church steeple, that's what this was. So Eino Chinami. What they were going to build was going to be a place of a temple. It's Mefurish and Zara Kaddish on the spot that this Migdal was the parallel to the Migdash in Yerushalayim. The only difference is the Migdash in Yerushalayim is on a mountain, and this steeple is Dafka in a valley. Now, what does that mean to you? What is the meaning of the steeple? If you know anything about these things. Okay, what is the meaning of the steeple? What's the meaning? The halacha said the shul has to be the tallest building in the city. That's obvious. That's halacha. That's mikra din. It's not what's being fulfilled today, but when a town should be built, halachically the shul is supposed to be the highest place. That's when you go to Yerushalayim, you see like Bell's shul, you see like it's all over the place. Okay, yeah, it's the most impressive building in the city. It is, and it really stands out. That's what it's supposed to look like. But the steeple is what? Let's know, what does the steeple mean over here? Well, we just learned what the Migdal is, some kind of a idea of expressing our rebellion to God, like we're going up or bringing him down, whatever it only be. Let's understand carefully. It's almost like saying when we build our temple on a mountain, which we have, we're saying we want to go up to God. We come to Valisa El Hamakan. When you want to build a steeple in a valley, you're saying, God, come down to us. It's like saying, I want to put it in two words. There's a pasuk, a sheikhen itam b'tech tu masam, make that a lechatchila. We don't want to walk out of our tumah. You be with us with where we are. So this is a steeple. This is what this is. This migdal is a place of a central point of worship, of ideology, as Rashi pointed out. Davar machadim. This is their makam of merida, which is going to basically personify their rebellion in God. How and what we'll describe later, ultimately. And that's what they want to do, because we want to stay together. We want to share one ideology of battle, of a religious rebellion. And therefore, we'll create this major migdal as a center of the metropolis. We will all live there. Therefore, we will have a unique identity. I'm just reading Chumash. Pen nafutz al pnei adama, lest we spread out all across the earth. No, we want to stay together in order to enhance our unique, singular identity of rebellion, of milchama b'akadosh baruch Hu. This is what this says over here. So basically, this was some kind of a milchama b'akadosh baruch Hu, personified by this mikdash with the steeple, dafke in a valley, not on a mountain, which is really awkward, because normally, specifically in this part of the world, well, here in Jerusalem, you can really notice it. I don't know if you know, if you look in Eretz Yisrael B'chlal, but definitely around the hilly areas in Judea, you can definitely see it. No one lives in the valleys. Everyone's living on the hilltops or the hillsides of the hills. Jerusalem is based on hilltops. The valleys are highways. Because basically the topography of this country is a flood basin, okay? Rain comes, it flows through the valleys, and that's how it irrigates, finally goes to the sea. If you have the highway to Tel Aviv, the Ayalon, that was a valley, with a creek, which rainwater used to go through. That's why they have, if you notice, in the middle of the highway, like this place for accumulation of rain. There was one time, I remember years ago, where that thing was so flooded, the highway had to be stopped. Halavai, we should be there again. That was years ago. You know, it's unbelievable when there's really a lot of rain. That's why Ashdod many times is flooded, because that's exactly where the rainwater floods from the Judean hills, going from Hebron, going there. And once you asphalted it all, it doesn't get into the ground, so it just floods basements. I don't know if you, not live and learn. So this is supposed to be basically the topography of this country is a rainwater flood bath. That's what it's supposed to be. We don't live in valleys. We live on the mountaintops. Go enter Jerusalem and see it. You just see it. That's where the highways are now. Everyone's living on the hilltops. That's why for Moshe, when the Chazal say that Yaakov sent Yosef me'emek Hebron, so Rashi says, who lives in an emek? So it doesn't really mean emek Hebron, it means me'etza amuka Hebron. So, they say drash on that, because pshat is problematic. No one lived in the valley. So here these people want to live in a valley, not just live in a valley, but create their temple in a valley. Now, I don't know, have you been to Athens? Okay, where's the Parthenon? It's on a mountain. Okay? I mean, anyway, I go to all the great cities, the important places are on hillsides, on hilltops. Where do you think the Vatican is? If you know your topography of Rome, it's also a hill. Okay? It's Vatican Hill. That's what it is. Go to the Invalides. I don't know, the Napoleon's tomb in Paris. It's a hill. Okay? You should know. I don't know what Romania is like, but Paris definitely I know.
It's just there.
Okay, so tell you the story head over there? Okay, no. Okay. You understand? It's never push it. All monuments are not found in valleys. God, who's in a valley? A valley is where you take your bath. Okay, the answer is they wanted, obviously the valley is a sign of their ideology. Putting a building in a valley is a hu tzarech iyun. So I repeat, the Zohar Kodesh Taka parallels the valley and the hill to the mountain, the hill of the Mikdash. Okay, he parallels that same thing, and also parallels the Sofa Achaz Brura of La'asid Lavai versus Dvarim Achadim of Dor Palaga. Vayered Hashem lir'ot He saw this metropolis and he saw the steeple. Asher banu bnei Adam. Vayomer Hashem hein am echad v'safa echad lekulam. Oh goodness, they have one agenda, they have one nation, and they have one culture and one language. V'zei chilem lasut, and this they're beginning to do. Nothing will stop them. In other words, their plan is cool. Their rebellion can work. I have to stop it before it goes further. So he writes, right? Chumash, right? Nothing will stop them. Whatever they plan to do can happen. If a God will not intervene, this can actually succeed to get God not to, to shut God out of this world. So what do? Let's go down and mess up their language, obviously lack of communication, etc. They will lack achdus, they'll lack their oneness. Once they will lack their oneness, their ideologies will not be shared. As soon as you have 10 Jews, you have 15 deists. Okay, so to get one the ideology will stop, and there's no more strength in numbers, and goodbye, and it fell apart. Smart move, that's what God did. So we have here some idea of some kind of merida about Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a very ideological thing. One wants to understand what it is. Now, the funny thing is, when we look at, for example, the Dar Mabul, do we think of ideology, or do we think of taiva? Well, Pasuk and Chumash. I'll read that Chumash to you too. The end of Parashat Beraishis. This is the where God says, "That's it. They have 120 years to fix up the thing. If not, the game's over." Okay. Let's read the Chumash and know what it says. When man multiplied on the face of the earth, there were people, population. Ubanot Yuldulim, they obviously had girls. Okay. Vayiru bnei ha'Elohim, what does Elohim mean? The elite, the leaders, right? Elohim, Lashon Srora v'Rabbanus, Rashi, Sanhedrin, Beis Amid Beis. V'yisim ke'Elohim, by the Nachash, that the Targum, Rav Revaya, great people. Not God, it's not Kodesh, it's Chol there. V'yisim ke'Elohim. Nasaticha Elohim leFaro, you will be the leader to Pharaoh. Malachim are called Elohim. Pnei Elohim v'tuchal. The Yaakov Avinu with the Malach says Pnei Elohim. He didn't see God, he saw the Malach. Okay, this is all Rambam, by the way, Nevuchim over there in Chelik Aleph Perek Beis. It mentions that Elohim is a name for Dayanim, Malachim, Roshei HaMedina, great people, etc. And also for God. It means mighty people, authoritative people. God is almighty, but basically the word means mighty people, and therefore Elohim is a name for many places. So what Bnei Elohim means, the upper crust, Scarsdale. Okay? Who did they see? B'nais ha'adam. Now, Adam is the lowest name possible for man. Adam, Enosh, Ish, etc. Adam means earthy, min ha'adama. The upper crust, the Upper East Side boys, hey, looked at them town girls. And how did they react to them? Ki tayvais heina. They good. You ever been in a locker room? She's an 8. That's a 9. They're good. Good for what? For their intelligence? What do they mean? They've objectified these young ladies. That's what they've done. They good. Should I salivate and you understand what I mean? It's very simple. The Scarsdale boys, or rather the upper crust, boys living on the other side of the park, okay, they saw these girls, these Brooklynites, says, hey, they're good. I can see it now, okay? And what happens when they objectify these females? So they took whatever they wanted. You know what that means, Rashi says? Eshes ish, zachar, and behema. Once you objectify people, she's there only to serve your hormonal needs. Therefore, there's no limit. And therefore, they engaged in adultery, bestiality, and homosexuality. At the time, that was perceived immoral. Okay, biblically, it still is, okay? Let's put this on the table. It didn't say here pedophilia, because they married them out at the age of 3 anyway, so it doesn't matter. You couldn't have that at the time. But yeah, they were decrepit. This was Fellini's Rome. Okay? This is like, I think it's kemat what's happening today. Like once upon, the Gemara says, you know why the world is still existing? Because they don't write a ksuba l'zachar. Now they write a ksuba l'zachar too. Okay, now there's official marriage. Thank God for the rainbow. If it wouldn't be for the bris, there'd be a flood. Okay? I'm not joking when I say this. This is mamish dor mabul. Chomas, behema, basically, zachar, eshish, yeah. It all comes from objectifying people. They didn't say these women are interesting, intelligent, etc. No, they good. They gave them numbers. I repeat, this sounds like adolescent locker room language, but the problem is these were not adolescents in a locker room. This was normative. You were judged by the extent that you have the capability of attracting male hormonal reactions. That's what attractive means. You attract flies, okay? They didn't see them as beautiful. They saw them as attractive, okay? They attract us. It's very predatorial, and that's what this is, okay? So this was a kitov saying, and we discussed today that it's subjective. It means make me feel good. Remember we learned that? They good, okay? They didn't say emes, sheken, toiv. Okay, it's a davar pashet. Vayikchem nashim kol asher bacharu. They just chose what they wanted. Zot Rashi HaKadosh. Af bulas bal, af azochev, af behema. Gracious Rabbah. That's Dor HaMabul. Now, obviously, it's coupled with the fact they have no limits. It's because the world is there to serve them. So your wife is mine, your daughter is mine, your dog is mine, you're mine. Obviously, your money's mine too. There's no restrictions on me, self-gratification. So obviously, theft, all the idea, the word is, it's someone else doesn't exist. It's a totally self-centered, hedonistic society of self-gratification. There's no limits. It's as simple as that. They weren't violent people. It didn't say they murdered people. But for indulgence and pleasure, there were no limits. There was no restriction at all. And this, you don't need chassidus for this. A pasuk in Chumash, I know how to read. So God says, that's it. In hedonistic, no-limit society, which is really what we live in today, let's be honest truth, okay? Mamash what we live in today. He says, God says, I have no more patience. There's a limit to how much I'm going to deal with this. They're nothing more than flesh, and they don't understand that there's more than that, and they have to rise to something. Rashi writes, they're only basar, and they don't chop that they have to do tshuva. You're not some big guy, you're just basar. And you're living in a world of a behemoth. I'm here. And there's God saying, I'm here, and you're just basar, and you're fighting me? Forget it. He says, V'hayu yamav yimei shana, they have 120 years left, in which either they shape up, if not, they shipping out. That's the story. At that point in time, God said, the name is over. That's what happened. 120 years later, Vayara Hashem ki rabba ra'at adam ba'az choyetze machshavat libo rak ra kol hayom. Nothing changed. Vayinachem Hashem ki asat adam. The 120 years stopped. Were over. Vayitatsev libo. It was quite sad. He didn't like what had to be done, but he knew it was the right thing to do. Pointing out that God sometimes does things which He's not happy about. It wasn't good for him, but it was the right thing to do. Vayitatsev libo doesn't mean it's tight. Okay. ויאמר השם אמחה את האדם, אשר בראשי בי על פני האדמה, מאדם ועד בהמה עד רמש עד עוף השמיים, כי ניחמתי כי עשיתים. But Noach מצא חן בעיני Hashem. That's the pasuk. So now we know why. Dor HaMabul was not just, does it sound ideological? Does it sound hedonistic? Purely hedonistic. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you look at the Beis Yankif, he brings a medrash. במדרש רבה ותנחומה כאן, זה שאמר שלמה, אם תכתוש את האוויר במכתש. If you pound the fool in a mortar, בתוך הריפות, בעלי, with the pistol, לא תסור אליו יבלה. You can pound them as much as you want, the foolishness will not leave him. It's not like grain that you pound and the chaff leaves, it separates. The evil, the fool, okay, the devious fool actually, Okay? You can pound them and pound them. Ulo mitchakem. It's another pasuk in Mishnah where it says, let's takeh. The let's, you hit. Upeti yarim. Only the pesi, the fool, he will be, the bird which isn't wise, he will become smart. But the let's won't become smart. The let's you can hit will continue being a cynic. He won't chap. The pesi, which is not a let's, he will understand. Pesi means the innocent fool. Evil means to say the person which is deviously lives a foolish life. Bal avla, okay? So he says, "Im tichtosh te'avir b'machtesh b'toch harifot be'ali lo tasum elav kach amdu dorosha enosh." Now he starts saying, read the Medrash. The first rebellion of God was Dor of Enosh, third generation, one we spoke about. Karu shmosha kadosh baruch hu avodah zarah. They named avodah zarah by the name of God. They gave godly meaning to pagan deities, to stars and moons. Shenemar azuchal likro b'shem Hashem. Uchal comes to the lashon of chulin. If you read the Medrash there, they used the name of God in surah of chulin, not in Kodesh. All of a sudden, these things are called godly. This is called God. What happened? These people are not aware of. The first flood was by Enosh. A third of the world, or I would say probably, since Enosh did not yet, the dispersion of society that we know it at the most in the Bible is from Dora Palaga. So I would guess we're talking about the inhabited world of Enosh. This is only third generation of creation. There weren't that many people around, okay? Let's be honest. Third generation of creation can't have that many people. We need the Chumash, we know how many people were there. Okay, so obviously there's no one living in America at the time or in China. Okay, and since Eden is in the Mesopotamian area, so we're figuring it's around here. So Shlish Shel Olam, God did not flood Greenland. There was no one there. Okay, I don't think he flooded the South Pole. I don't think that Enosh's cousins got there yet. Okay, so there's no reason for God to flood Brazil if there's no one living in the Amazon. So God flooded a third of the world. Interesting. So by calling out Avodah Zarah, I would say by giving me, the reaction is flooding. Let's see in a minute why. I'll do it next week. Then it's the Shenema, Koreh le'me'ayam v'yishpachem apnei ha'aretz Hashem Shmo. Dor Mabul, flip the page, Amru la'el sur mimenu. Here the Medrash describes the rebellion of Dor Mabul is not hedonistic, but rather it's a way of telling God, bug off. Walk away. Here we clearly see the Medrash interpreting Dor Mabul as a religious rebellion. Amru la'el sur mimenu. V'lolam dumi dorosha enosh. We have no record of dorosha enosh being hedonistic or taiva in any fashion, form, or size. Whatever it was a religious rebellion of choosing they wanted a God, just not the God Yud Kei Vav Kei. They preferred another type of God. Whatever reason we will learn in Mitzvah Shem. But look what it says, that Dor Mabul did the same thing. Their hedonistic behavior was a way of telling God, walk away. Do not intervene in our lives. Amru lakel sur mimenu. God, walk away from us. Now we have to understand something's happening here. It's what I mentioned before with Dor Palaga. There's a way of manipulating God, they understood, or they thought, which we can make sure he will not intervene and let us live. His company is overwhelming. Amru lakel sur mimenu. V'lolam du midor enosh ad shemachaz zichram. He totally destroyed them, eradicated them. Af Dor Palaga, also the generation of dispersion. Lolam du midorot rishonim equals, it was the same type of sin. Sur mimenu, everything I said in the Rashi comes out in this Medrash. Dor shel enosh, Avodah Zarah. Dor of Mabul, which looks like Chomas and Arayas, okay? Ultimately, Dor Palaga were all the same ideology in different forms. This is the exact opposite of what it says in the Chazal and the Jews, of the Yisrael Avodah Zarah, Elef b'dei lahatalem arayas. The Chazal say that the Avodah Zarah in the Midbar was not ideological, it was a way of having arayas. They wanted a certain comfort zone, so that if it will substitute you, it's like go to the shul, the rabbi's talking too much, Shabbos, Kashrus. I need him to talk about current events and let me live, don't bother me, the famous joke of a young rabbi goes to a shul, and the first Shabbos he talks about Kashrus, so the sisterhood president comes to the rabbi, it's a touchy subject, I suggest you move on to something else. Okay, next week he talks about Taras HaMishpacha. The brotherhood and the sisterhood presidents come to the rabbi. That's a touchy subject. I say to try something. The next week he talks about Shabbos. I says, come on, Rabbi, that's terribly touchy. What can I talk about? Not kashrus, not Taras HaMishpacha. Rabbi, just about Judaism. You know what I mean? Judaism, kumbaya fluff. Don't about Judaism, morals, ethics, current events, what I think about Trump, whatever it only be. So this is Judaism. Same thing here. God, you can be gods, okay? Just don't show me your face too often. I'm going to go to another church, another pastor. I'll choose a rabbi who won't give these speeches. I know you're the rabbi, but I want a rabbi who doesn't give these speeches. And let me explain this in 2 minutes because it's really late. I want to stop now. Can you imagine? If my old Shlomo would say, can you imagine? Can you imagine? You know what I mean? So can you imagine? Very guitar, be very nice. So, can you imagine that I'm this young guy and the president of the company thinks I'm brilliant. And he brings me up to the 130th floor and says that my office could be next to his. What goodness sakes, with him I have to play golf. I don't like golf. And he drinks these unbelievable wines and single malts. I'm a beer man, Heineken, the best, but that's where it stops. I don't play golf. I'm a redneck. I bowl, man. I like to have hero sandwiches and, go crazy on Super Bowl Sunday in the morgue lounge over there, you know what I mean? That's what I want to do, you know what I mean? And the guy's got me on the 120th floor that I have to wear my tie and speak perfect English. I want to curse. I want to say, I want to live, I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, man. And this guy's from, what do? I said, listen, do me a favor. I like you very much. I will deal with the department head on the 7th floor. I realize the department head is nothing more than an expression of your great majesty on the 124th floor. But at least he doesn't golf. And he drinks beer. And I feel comfortable with him. I can wear my sneakers and my torn jeans, which is very stylish, okay? I have to wear this tuxedo and all that. Come on, do me a favor. It's rich. It's overwhelming. Do you understand that too much God awareness can be overwhelming for certain people? Do you understand living with God can be not easy unless it's natural for you? And there was a dichotomy there, which we have to discuss how it happened, where it was too much. We had to go away. So what we're going to do is, we're going to believe in God. But our relationship with him will be through the 8th floor department head. That's what Avodah Zarah was originally. Open up Perik Aleph Hilchos Avodah Zarah in Rambam Halacha Aleph. Come to me after you know it Bal Peh, and we'll talk next week. Good Tvach.